The followers of 3 religions make up over half of the world's population. All of these faiths share common roots. One of these is Jerusalem. Let me introduce myself. My name is Andy Yardy. I'm a filmmaker, and in my career, I've been to over 60 countries, but never to Israel. I've come here on a pilgrimage to see Jerusalem, a city that looms larger than life for me. It's my first day in Israel. I'm sitting at the edge of the Mediterranean Sea in the old city of Jaffa. It's a windy day here. The waves are crashing in to the beach. People are out enjoying the day. It's a holiday. Israel has been a nation for 67 years. So, as Israel celebrates its Independence Day, I'm taking the day here in Tel Aviv to adjust. Tel Aviv is interesting. Strange, really. It's foreign, but not all that different from any other modern city. However, it is overwhelmingly Jewish, but punctuated by signs of the much larger Christian and Muslim faiths. Probably like you, I've noticed that throughout my life, these 3 faiths keep popping up, and not always in the most positive light. The events and ideas and people that make the headlines smear blood all over the ideals on which these faiths were founded. Overlooking Tel Aviv today, though, it doesn't seem possible that today Israel and the surrounding region is the focal point of so much of this struggle. My train leaves for Jerusalem in the late afternoon. I'm getting excited. The train heads southeast away from the Mediterranean basin and towards the West Bank and Dead Sea. The farmlands turn to mountains, and the train struggles upward, taking me closer to the gates of Jerusalem. Nothing, I mean nothing, can prepare you for your first glimpse of Jerusalem from the Damascus Gate. As I enter the gates and walk down these narrow pathways, I do what I always do when I get to a new place. I just walk and observe. I'm overwhelmed by the depth of history and humanity that is concentrated into this 1/3 square mile plot of land. As a filmmaker, I have traveled to war zones. I've been at the scene of natural disasters. I've walked the streets of the world's largest cities and most remote villages. But my first walk through the old city of Jerusalem really was something unique. I have been fascinated by Jerusalem for as long as I can remember. So this is a culmination of a dream, along with my fascination with history and its connection to current events. There has been a lot said about this city that I don't need to repeat. But the basics is that Jerusalem has been the focal point of conflict, both religious and political, for thousands of years. Since it was annexed by the State of Israel in the '67 war, modern Jerusalem has officially been their capital. But it is also claimed as the capital of the Palestinian state, whose borders I could clearly see earlier as I approached the old city of Jerusalem. Inside these walls are sites sacred to the world's three major monotheistic religions. For Muslims, it's the Al-Aqsa Mosque and Dome of the Rock, the third most holy place in the world for Muslims. For Jews, it's the Western Wall, all that's left of their temple. And for Christians, this is the place where Jesus died and was resurrected. In my time here, I want to focus on what happens on 3 days each week that are sacred to each of these faiths. For Muslims, it's Friday, their day of prayer. For Jews, it's Saturday, Shabbat. And for Christians, it's Sunday, their day of worship, where they celebrate the resurrection of Christ. So my hope is that by focusing on these 3 days and sharing some sacred moments with the faithful, I can start to get beyond the conflict and bloodshed that we all know about and discover this sacred city that is a spiritual home to billions. Let's discover this city from a perspective that you can only have when you walk through the streets, when you meet the people and see this place not as a political pawn or a religious relic, but as a home for people just like you and I. Context is important when it comes to getting a grasp on the importance of Jerusalem. Inside, I feel a little bit insulated from the bigger picture of what this place means, especially to Muslims. So I'm taking a short side trip to the West Bank to learn more.
What's your name?
Tawfiq.
What is the meaning of your name?
It's like better.
Better?
Like it's better, yeah.
Tawfiq is my taxi driver here in the West Bank. His name more literally means prosperity. He asked me not to show his face, but let me record his voice as we talked over the next several hours.
We have so many people, you don't know how we live here, you don't know about the life, because the Jews don't like the tourists to come to Palestine to see what the Israelian is doing with the Palestinians. Just you coming for the Church of Nativity, some souvenirs, and then you will come back to Jerusalem. You will see the problem from one side, not from both sides. In the TV, you will see when the Palestinians like shoot a stone, make a problem with the Israelis. But you don't see when the Israelian, it's kill the Palestinian, it's cut the houses, it's take the land. Cannot stay all the life like this is intifada, and it's intifada fighting the problem. You know, just we need like normal life. That's what we need.
Back in Jerusalem, I'm sitting near the entrance to the Al-Aqsa Mosque. On these grounds is the Dome of the Rock, which covers the foundation stone, where tradition says heaven meets earth, the focal point of many important events to all three faiths. Tens of thousands of people swarm past me into the mosque, where the main prayer time begins at noon. This is the third most holy place in the world for Muslims.
What's your name?
Andy. And your name is?
My name Ibrahim.
Ibrahim.
Yes. This is we have praying Juma. Like Christian, they have
Yes.
Monday, we have Friday, our Juma.
Eventually, things start to slow down. Shop owners pack up their wares, cover their displays, and soon, it's quiet. Do you hear it behind me? From hundreds of locations all over the city, the call to prayer echoes out 5 times a day.
This is the moment when Muslims stop everything and kneel to pray.
The prayers inside are a sacred moment between the faithful and Allah. Later, Sheikh Fayez from the Mosque of Omar, just a short distance away, graciously let me share this moment with them. It started as his watch alarm went off, signaling him to lead the call to prayer.
Allahu Akbar, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
Earlier in the West Bank, while driving to Hebron with Tawfiq, I asked him what it is about Al-Aqsa that's so special to Muslims.
When you pray one time, like in normal mosque, it's like you pray one time. But if you pray in Al-Aqsa Mosque or in Mecca, the one time like the same when you pray like 1,000 times.
Okay.
Only later, when I had the chance to walk the grounds around Al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock myself, did Tawfiq's words begin to make sense to me.
If you are tired, if you are angry from something, but when we be inside the mosque there, it's like everything it's gone, you know? So, yani, you be like relaxed. It's everything like okay for you.
It's moving, right? This sacred moment. So much of our cultural understanding of Islam doesn't give us this spiritual connection. It's something else completely. I might not know much about Islam, but I know about sacred spaces that move me, that move my soul to a deeper place. And I do feel something special in this moment and in this place. Where it sits, though, is controversial. Right on the Temple Mount, the site of Solomon and Herod's temple, as well as a focal point of Jesus' life. Only a few feet away is the Western Wall, where even now Jews are preparing for Shabbat, which begins at sundown. Shabbat is the Hebrew word for Sabbath. It begins at sundown on Friday. During this time, Jews put aside all earthly cares and focus fully on God. No cameras are allowed at the Western Wall during Shabbat, so all I have are the sounds of those prayers and video taken at other times that will give you only a small glimpse of what Shabbat is like here in Jerusalem.
Here is a very special place. Take a look right over. This would become this is the land that the promised land, Tehran. You have a nation that left their land for 2,000 years and returned.
For hours, I just sat and watched as thousands of Jews approached the wall and prayed.
ברוך אתה אדינו אלינו מלך העולם המבדיל בין קודש לחול בין אור לחושך וישראל העמים בין יום השביעי לששת ימי המעשה ברוך אתה אדינו המבדיל בין קודש לחול.
A friend connected me with Yaakov Schneider, a former Israeli foreign emissary who has now dedicated his life to connecting young people from all faiths in order to seek peace and understanding in this region. When you walk through the old city, what do those places mean to you?
But there is a spirit in this place. You close your eyes and you feel that there is something above this, about the reality of life. I had once something in our family that I didn't find the answer to. And I'm secular, I'm not religious in many ways. I'm not practicing this religion. But I went to Jerusalem and I went to the Western Wall. And surprising, I got the answer there. It's kind of a mystery. Why there? And the solution came while I was there. And it's just a story, The fact that I went there, or Jerusalem have a meaning for me, it's this story represented. The oldest religion of all these religions is the Jewish one.
Yes.
That's right. So when they went to copy, so that's where they took it from.
Uh-huh. So do you believe that all of them are right, or?
If they're right, they can be right.
Palestine has been the traditional Jewish homeland for thousands of years. Even though they were exiled several times, most recently for nearly 2,000 years, Palestine is their home once again.
The creation of the State of Israel was created by secular Jews. And that was the idea. Because we couldn't bring here the old tradition kind of religious Orthodox way of Eastern Europe. We were not succeeding to build this nation if we were Hasidic from East Europe. No way. This country won't be established. When I grew up here, it was hidden that there are the others. I grew up in Haifa. Haifa is a mixed city, Jews and Arabs. I didn't know that there are Arabs in the city that I grew up. It was hidden from us because we took care of our Jewish and new Israeli state. We refused to talk any other language than Hebrew. I reject the language of my parents of Russian and Yiddish, only Hebrew. We are the new product of the new Israeli. And slowly, year after, I realized that there are these other people here that live here next to us. And Israel is still a young place, growing.
It is a young country, isn't it?
It's a very young country. The modern state of Israel, it's a very young country. Did miracles and did some failures.
dominance of the state of Israel is inescapable in and around Jerusalem. This plays right into my preconceived notions of Israel and its fight to maintain control and settle their homeland. But Yaakov explains that that's not exactly true. There are 3 primary schools of thought among Jews about their place here.
So there are these people that live here, the ultra-Orthodox, which we call Haredim. They don't believe in the existing of the state of Israel. So till this moment that the Messiah will come down from Mount of Olives, which is just in front of us, it's not up to us to create anything new, like the state of Israel or the new temple. It's up to the Messiah when the Messiah will come.
Listen, the Orthodox religious Jews believe that until the Messiah comes, you don't do anything in force.
Okay.
It should be decided from upstairs.
Yeah, so it's God's decision, not ours.
Yes.
And then we have this other extremists, what in English we call them the modern Orthodox Jews, that basically they are the majority of the settlers that settled in Judea and Samaria after the 67 war, because they believe in the idea of the big one Israel that was given to us by God, Abraham, and it's from Iraq to the Mediterranean.
It would have been better without, because there would have been less wars, less conflicts.
So war and conflict is destroying this place, isn't it?
Yes.
Finally, there is probably what is the majority, at least among secular Jews. Those who believe that there is a path to peace and coexistence.
And my belief is that we are in this amazing city. It should be open to the whole world equally. Unfortunately, religion, many times, the interpretation of religion create the most terrible wars in the world. We have to heal ourselves from this fear of the other.
Fear of others. There seems to be a theme that keeps coming up in my conversations here. A misunderstanding of the meaning of this sacred place between neighbors. A fear that reaching out across the aisle might somehow devalue the ritual and tradition that is so important to each faith. Honestly, this is a struggle we face everywhere. But in Israel, it's out in the open and staring you in the face. I'm left with a lot to think about as Shabbat comes to an end, and I begin to look towards Sunday, where I will explore the importance of Jerusalem for Christians, the largest of these 3 faiths. A trumpet plays as I approach the Jaffa Gate. I'm on my way to meet Nora, a woman, I'm told, who is the best person to guide me through what Jerusalem means for Christians. I stop to buy some bread for breakfast and end up meeting Hanny, a Greek Orthodox Christian.
Always we say thanks God. Good, whether it's good or not good, thanks God. Because this is our life, we get used to it. As Palestinian, I cannot find a job.
One of them and one of them.
I'm the one who take the light on Saturday night Easter from Jesus' tomb. So I'm a believer.
We talk for a while, and Hanny starts to tell me his take on the history of Jerusalem.
History is good when you use it in the life, for sure. History. But he said we want to do business. We don't care about history. Yes, please.
He's right. What is the point of history, monuments, and sacred places when normal people can't even make a living? So I leave Hanny to make a living. I meet Nora at a small museum she founded called Wajud, which in Arabic means existence. It's the kind of place you'd probably miss if you didn't know it was there. Nora started Wajud as a place where people of all faiths could come together and learn about the cultural heritage of the people who live here. We began to talk about her faith.
It's not like I'm a Christian by birth. It's I'm a Christian by actions. And Jesus came to serve and not to be served.
Is it special to live here?
Very special and very hard and very painful. Very special because everybody knows what Jerusalem is all about. It's a place where the faith began.
The focus of Christianity in Jerusalem centers around the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It sits on the site where tradition says Jesus died, was buried, and on the third day resurrected. 4 branches of Christianity share occupancy of this sacred place: Greek Orthodox, Roman Catholic, Armenian, and Coptic churches.
As Christians here, the Easter week is the peak of the religion. Easter is resurrection, and with resurrection comes life. When Jesus carried the cross and he was beaten, made fun of, they divided his possession. He had nothing except the robe that he had, and they made fun of him by putting the crown of thorns on his head. And when Jesus died on the third day, he was resurrected. To us, resurrection means the beginning of new life. That's why we have colored eggs at Easter time. Allow them time. There will be a little chicken. So there is life. And with the resurrection, there is new life.
I took time to walk the Via Dolorosa. I watched as pilgrims took time to pray at each station along the path that Jesus carried the cross to his crucifixion.
Come è misericordioso il vostro Padre Celeste. Beati misericordiosi, perché otterrete
The walk ends at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. As the day wore on and the crowds grew, I began to feel a tension that I didn't expect to find in this sacred space. Maybe it was the clash of liturgies and traditions or the unchecked tourism, but I began to wonder, how can anybody find the peace they seek in this space?
You know, it's so sad for me as a good Christian to go to church and not feel that I'm there, I'm worshiping, and the spirit of religiosity is there. There is no self-respect and self-esteem of the human being. And this is the reason why I, as a woman in this part of the world, I really feel hurt. I really need spirituality. And when we go to churches, it is for this reason. But it is hard to see that and to practice it inside these holy places. Is this a holy site? To me, I find even the Church of the Holy Sepulchre like a zoo. if Jesus Christ were alive and he comes today, he will just kick them out like he did with the money changers in the temple. So this is what aggravates me.
I left conflicted. Would Jesus even recognize this religion that was started in his name? Not far outside the Damascus Gate is a place known as the Garden Tomb. It's an alternative site where primarily Protestant Christians believe that Jesus was buried and rose again. Walking through this garden, I begin to feel hope once again, that there is something to this peace that Jesus came to give, and that Christians from all over the world come here to find.
Our life here is a celebration. We celebrate with our existence. My hope is to continue doing whatever I am, and my hope is to see less suffering and less bloodshed, because it's too much. The insecurity that we live, and we have been living here, there is no peace in this part of the world until the Lord Jesus Christ comes. And no matter what will happen, Christians will remain in this part of the world. This is the true witness.
This witness that Nora lives is a reflection of the hope and peace that people from all faiths come to Jerusalem to seek. But the reality for the people who live here is much more complicated. To really call this city home, they must find a way to navigate through the bloodshed. And this isn't easy, but I want to try by looking back at what I've learned from the people who live here in this sacred space as they struggle to call this their home. I've really come to love walking through the streets of Jerusalem in the early morning. It's probably my favorite time of day here. The streets are quiet. This is the one time of day that you can kind of start to see what life is like for the people who actually live here. Today is bittersweet, though. My time in Jerusalem is coming to an end. My experience here has left me confused. Jerusalem and each of these three faiths are so much more complicated than I ever imagined. As things start to get going, I get distracted, and eventually I'm pulled into a shop to buy some last-minute souvenirs.
This is the Jerusalem cross. It's 5 across and 1 across.
The thickening crowds reflect my confusion. I'm wondering, had I learned anything? Or would I leave with this tangled web still clouding my thoughts? I had to stop and get some tea. As I reflect, I realized that much of what was nagging me really wasn't my experience with these faiths, but the tension, conflict, history, and politics that sits on top of everything here.
Okay, this is probably the best tea I've ever had.
I take a detour to the Holocaust Museum on the other side of town to get a glimpse of the events that led to the current state of Israel and eventually the circumstances that affect everyone who lives here today. What happened to the Jews in World War II was atrocious. Now, the Jews have a homeland, but at what cost? As I walk through the museum, I can't help but think about the millions of Muslims and Christians who have been displaced in the decades since these events. Is it right?
My parents grew up in Eastern Europe, in Russia. And after the Holocaust, they came here to Israel. And they came here because of what we see from here. Okay, that's it. So we are connected to this place emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I was born here. So for me, it's home. With all the meaning of what is home.
Home. That's it. Home is something that's supposed to be comforting, safe and secure, right? And when it's not, we break down, fight, or retreat in fear.
What do you need from life? You need safety, sleep good, eat good, work good. You need it, I need it. We share the same thing. Go to your synagogue, go to your church, go to your mosque. Who cares? I don't care, you know. Now we are here because we are lucky people. We have no land, we have no home, we have no ID.
I think back to a haunting conversation I had with Jamal, a shop owner in Hebron that Tawfiq introduced me to. Like Tawfiq, Jamal asked that I not show his face.
Where do you come from?
From United States.
Well, tell people what you've seen. We are not animals. We are not dogs. We are not bad people. We are good and nice people. We shouldn't be treated like that. But we are determined to stay. We are not going to give up as long as we live. They call us terrorists. Are we terrorists? They are the one who's got the weapons, the machine guns and everything, and the planes and everything, and they are attack us.
Believe me, we have many people who want to make peace. You know? Because, you know why? Because we are tired. Fellas, just we need something to finish all this problem, you know? We cannot stay all the life like this, you know? Just a problem, fighting.
So you think Jerusalem should be for everybody?
Only this way. We don't have another way. It's nobody give to another. And I don't think the problem is finished. Intifada, next intifada, next intifada. I don't think the intifada will stop, you know? Without Jerusalem.
And my belief is that we are in this amazing city. It should be open to the whole world equally. So one will go to the Western world, one will go to Al-Aqsa, and one will go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
Accept me as me, an Israeli, a Muslim, and a Christian. What's the difference? Nothing. We are all, you know, the creatures, the creation of God. And for this, we're grateful.
As I wrapped up my conversation with Yaakov, we could hear the call to prayer starting.
I think that it's one of the most powerful voices that I can listen to, this Allahu Akbar. God is great. Okay? It's in Arabic, but it's the same for me. Some people will say, we should not allow it. Okay? And I think we should. Even it's 5 a.m. in the morning, waking you up, fine. This living together, being neighbors, you should accept this.
Across the border in the West Bank, I had one last question for Tawfiq.
What is your dream? My dream, one day it's coming and the walls go down. You can't going everywhere. Also my dream one day to going outside to see the life, you know. I have never been outside, you know, like tourist, you know.
You want to be a tourist?
Yeah, for me, like when I going to some country, it's the first time for me. Of course, I'm like tourist.
Isn't it funny that when it comes down to it, all people really want are simple things? When I toured Wajud, the cultural center started by Nora, I noticed a shelf that held 3 books. A Bible, a Torah, and a Quran. I asked her what they meant. And she explained to me that she had put a Bible on display that was a family heirloom. Before long, through separate encounters, she was given a Torah and a Quran, both equally precious to their previous owners. There they sit as an example of the potential, the possibilities of hope and peace between neighbors.
all those who call this sacred city home.